You ever wonder why people, really smart people, sometimes stay completely silent about things they actually believe in? Well, it turns out there's a powerful theory that explains this exact thing, and it's called the spiral of silence.
Okay, let's be real for a second. Have you ever typed out a whole comment, maybe a social media post, read it back to yourself, and then just deleted it? Not because you changed your mind, but because you could already feel the backlash coming, the judgment, the pile-on, the whole mess.
Well, that little moment of self-censorship, that feeling isn't just some weird quirk you have. It's a huge social force, it has a name, and believe it or not, its story begins with trying to understand how entire countries can fall silent in the face of absolute horror.
When you really boil it all down, this whole theory is built on one of the most basic human emotions we all share. That deep, deep fear of being kicked out of the group, of being left all alone.
And this is the core idea right here. The spiral of silence basically suggests that we will often just shut up if we think our opinion is the unpopular one. It's not always about being afraid of being wrong, it's about the fear of being isolated.
So, why do we do this? Well, the theory says we all have this kind of social radar built right in. We're constantly scanning the room or our social feeds to figure out which opinions are safe and which ones will get us in trouble. Now, when the media starts blasting one particular viewpoint over and over, our radar picks it up as the majority opinion. And here's the real kicker. By us staying silent, we actually help make that dominant view seem even more popular than it is, which just makes the spiral tighter.
Now, to really wrap your head around how this powerful feedback loop works, we kind of have to go back in time and see where this whole idea even came from. So the woman who came up with this theory, Elisabeth Noelle-Neumann, she wasn't just an academic sitting in an office somewhere. She actually lived through Nazi Germany, and she was haunted by one massive question. How did so many people just stay silent? Her theory was her way of trying to answer that, to explain how the fear of being an outcast can literally pave the way for history's worst moments.
So here's the play-by-play of how it works. It all starts when the media creates what's called a climate of opinion. Our little social radar picks this up. Now, if we disagree with it, that fear of being isolated kicks in and we stay quiet. But that silence gets interpreted as agreement, which makes the loud opinion seem even stronger. And with every turn, that spiral gets tighter and tighter until any other viewpoint just seems to disappear.
Okay, so if the media is the engine that gets this spiral going, how does it build that so-called dominant opinion to begin with? Well, another theory has a really important piece of this puzzle.
Right. Before the spiral can even start, that majority opinion has to get planted in our heads somehow. And that's where cultivation theory, from a guy named George Gerbner, comes into the picture. It argues that the media doesn't just tell us what to think about today. It slowly shapes our entire view of the world over a long, long time.
You can think about it like this. Cultivation theory is what builds the stage. Through years of repetitive stories and images, like, say, always showing a certain group of people as villains, it slowly shapes what we believe deep down. The spiral of silence is what happens on that stage. It's the immediate, right now social pressure that makes us decide if we're going to say our lines out loud or just stay quiet in the background. So one shapes our beliefs, the other shapes our speech.
Okay, that's enough theory. Let's take this stuff out of the textbook and look at how it actually plays out in the real world with real people.
Smoking is a fantastic example. I mean, for decades, the media cultivated this idea that smoking was cool, sophisticated, totally normal. But then, the story started to shift toward health risks. The dominant opinion changed. And this didn't just change minds, it kicked a spiral of silence into high gear. The feeling of public disapproval got so strong that smokers started feeling totally isolated, and trying to voice a pro-smoking view in public became pretty much impossible.
And for a more recent case, you can look at the coverage of the CAA-NRC protests in India. When a lot of major media outlets started framing the protesters as anti-national, it created this really hostile public climate. So for tons of people who sympathized, students, regular professionals, their families, speaking out in support suddenly felt really risky. And their silence created this illusion that almost everyone was against the protests, even when huge numbers of people were marching in the streets.
And this all brings us right back to Noelle-Neumann's really powerful idea. True public opinion isn't just what we all think in private, it's what we feel safe enough to say out loud. If you're afraid of sanctions, whether that's from the government or just from your own friends, then your silence ends up saying more than words ever could.
So this all leads to a massive question for us right now. In this age of social media and being connected 24/7, is this spiral getting better or is it getting way, way worse?
It turns out the internet didn't break the spiral. If anything, it supercharged it.
Now we have thousands of tiny, faster, more intense little spirals. Echo chambers make us feel like our opinion is the only sane one. Cancel culture is literally weaponizing that fear of social isolation. And online trolls? They're the volunteer police force, creating that exact climate of fear that makes us hit delete before we even post.
And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. In a world that is just full of digital noise, maybe the most important things are being communicated in the silence. So the real question isn't just what are people yelling about online, it's what conversations are we not having? And maybe more importantly, what does your own silence say about you?